time, I'd like to call the Budget and Finance and Personnel Committee to order, September 3rd, Tuesday at 5:30 p.m. Identify any potential conflicts? Being none, citizen comments. Are there any citizen comments? One at a time, citizen comments. All right, number 4, the consent agenda, minutes of August 20th, 2019, monthly position, control report, bills and payrolls. A motion to approve? A motion by Nick, second by Steve. Thank you. Any discussion? Being none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 6, request to recommend the approval of budget resolution number 11-2019, transferring $9,004.65 from the cable TV fund balance applied to cable TV operation supplies for the purchase of equipment for the communication department, presented by Tom Lukes, communication director. Tom, all yours.
Thank you and good evening. I just wanted to mention a little bit of background why we need the equipment, and you do have a list in front of you in the agenda packet, and it does mention a little bit in the memorandum. But it is essential that both myself and my colleague have equipment to do the work of the city, as well as do the work for public access. So we're doing a lot of internal videos for the city and looking for equipment that we don't currently have to do that professional style of equipment that's needed to help promote our city out to the public. And some of the equipment listed here will help us do that. Some of this equipment is to replace a lot of obsolete and broken equipment, and we finally have had time to go through all that and know what we need in our first phase. You can see it does say a first phase. There is a second phase, but that's included in next year's budget.
Recommend approval of budget resolution number 11-2019. Discussion. Any questions from anyone? Tom? Was that a second, Steve?
No, that's it.
We both second.
Oh, well.
I was going to have a question then after a second.
Okay, question?
Yeah, you're replacing some obsolete stuff. I mean, it's quite a variety of things here, so I don't imagine that there's any one answer to this, but what is kind of the lifespan kind of relative to some of these things?
Yeah, really it is, if it's taken care of well, it'll last quite some time, a good 5 to 8 years. Some of this equipment is used on location, so we want to make sure that we're taking care of it in our cases that we have. So the lifespan should last. Computer-wise, you'll notice that there are a few Macintosh computer, Apple. The lifespan of that is quite a bit longer than traditional computers on the PC. And Macs are used a lot in this kind of job that we do in multimedia. Usually about 8 to 10 years we can get off of a computer, similar to the one we're asking for here. Down below for $3,015. It's a editing style computer that will help us out a lot and will last. It's really we want to make sure that we take care of it and we monitor where it goes for our volunteers as well.
Thank you.
Any other questions? If not, I have one, Tom.
Yes.
Or two. First, have you completed, or your department completed the inventory, yes or no?
Yes.
Thank you. The other item is, I've had some calls from my constituents, believe it or not. Generally, we have a very quiet district. However, we've had some concerns about live mics before a meeting. I got called at one night, and there were some council people discussing things on a live mic. So I don't know if you can correct that, if you would.
Yeah, it should be with our buttons that are turned off. We do want to make sure that the buttons are off when you're not using them at this point in time. That's definitely one of the, I should say, gates. We can on our end as well double check that to make sure things aren't getting out to the public before they need to be. So,
No.
yes.
This was no criticism, it was just constructive, if you would. The other thing is, I had another call from an individual that said the transmission, the voice transmission is very quiet, low, and they have to turn their TV up a great deal. Is there anything you can do with that?
Yeah, we will actually right now tonight. I have asked my colleague in the booth to increase the volume, and what we would like is to have anybody that's watching this evening reach out to us or reach out to your alderman. That's fine as well. But we would like to hear. Call me 715-486-2070, 486-2070, and let me know. We need to know because we do monitor it in our TVs. A lot of times different sets are different. We find out the volumes. We also will be working on increasing, or I shouldn't say increasing the volume, but leveling off those volumes. We learned some stuff in some recent trading about a week and a half ago that we were not aware of. So that hopefully will help out. But we do want to hear from our viewers. That's really important. And if it's low or you can't see the picture, we definitely would like to know.
Okay, thank you very much. Now we have a motion and a second on the floor to recommend approval of budget resolution number 11-2019. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Tom. Item number 7, request to recommend approval of resolution number 2019-36, update of designated public depositories, presented by Ron Allman, Finance Director. Ron.
Thank you. This is somewhat of a housekeeping item. We're required to have a resolution on file describing where our public depositories are. And from the memo, you can see the last full list was filed in 2000, and we added CSB Loyal in 2013. So I just want to kind of run through the 6 accounts we have listed here and what we do with them. Citizen State Bank is our main checking account, and then we have a variety of smaller savings account. We're required to hold various deposits and keep them separate. Forward Financial Bank is basically a pass-through account. They take care of our HSA, so it's truly employee funds that flow through there, but I wanted to list it for completeness. Hometown Bank in Watoma, we set this one up about 9 months ago. So with LifeQuest and the ambulance billing, when we signed LifeQuest on, we didn't set up a bank in Watoma like most of the other clients did. So they were required to, for example, remote deposit every single check they got back to our bank in Loyal. So this is really a convenience for them. It's no cost to us. So now we have a bank account in Watoma. So when they get in all their deposits, they just take it right there, and then they once a month transfer the amount to our Loyal bank. So RBC Wealth Management's investment provider, CDs, government securities. Besides the public depositories, we're limited to what we can invest in, and it's very conservative things. They provide CDs and those kind of things. Utilities just recently invested in, and then U.S. Treasury and government agent securities. Currently, we're not holding any. We sold the one we had outstanding in the amount of $1 million just last week. So we don't have any standalone U.S. Treasury and government securities at this time, but we wanted to keep it on the list as an investment option. So with that, open up for questions or ask for approval.
All right, I'd like a motion to recommend approval of policy number 1.34. Number 2019-36. A motion by Nick, second by Steve. Any questions for Ron? Being none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Item number 8, request to recommend approval of policy number 1.340. Taxi Department of Suspension of Service Policy, presented by Steve Bart, City Administrator. Steve.
Thank you. For those who don't know, who might be watching on TV as well, the city gets grant money from the federal and state government for the operation of a shared ride taxi service. We're not the provider, but we contract with someone to do that. Currently, that's Running Incorporated of Viroqua, and they've been doing it for several years now. What happens sometimes, as hard as we try to service every rider, make sure that people are able to be transported under that program, sometimes people will become potentially unruly. Maybe they've been drinking, maybe they are rude or more than that to a driver. Perhaps they might even be violent in a moment. And so 2 years ago, the state of Wisconsin encouraged all cities operating shared ride taxi services, if they didn't already have a policy, to adopt one. And they provided a template for how to deal with those type of situations. And that's where we get the phrase debarment or suspension of service. But there be some rules, some guidelines under which you would actually be able to say to somebody, we're not allowing you to ride. And some of the things that come up, as I mentioned, were behaviors, might also be non-payment, could be calling for service many times and not showing up. Those types of things that might warrant at least some suspension of your privileges to ride in the taxi, basically that you have violated policy or behaved in a way that means that you should have to not be a rider for a while. So in December of 2017, the city did operate or approve such a policy that's been in place. And when we did, we put it under Chapter 2, which is administration. And that may or may not be the best place. I think being suggested now that it's not. It was policy number 2-202. I'm saying that wrong, 2.020. And so as part of what we're doing tonight, we'd like to change that. We'd like to move it under council policies. Council has a section under their administrative policies, Chapter 1, that talks about complaint type things that come up, how we handle citizen issues, Title VI, and those kind of things. So it would seem to make most sense being there rather than under administration. One of the things with the current policy, it refers to the address of city offices as being 630 South Central, when obviously we moved in the past year to 207 West 6th Street, where we are tonight. But also, the previous person who handled complaints was the finance director, which is kind of hard to explain. How would the finance director be involved in handling customer complaints and those types of issues? But Keith Stry, when he was here, did do that. Well, Amy Krogman in our administration department, who works for the mayor, city administrator, and HR director, is a person who deals with a lot of the office administrative type issues that come up with the taxi service, as opposed to Ron in his position. He and his department handle more of the financial aspects of the grant and those types of things. So what you have in front of you is a policy that does three things. One, it moves it from Chapter 2 to Chapter 1. It also changes the number, and it makes several changes to the wording, incorporating the correct address and the correct person as being the administrative specialist / HR assistant as the person who would handle those complaints on behalf of the city. But it does continue what was adopted back in 2017 in terms of the expected behavior of riders if they wish to continue getting service. And there's a pecking order, if you will, for what happens if they violate this, and if they violate it more than once, what will happen to them and their privileges. So having said all that, staff would recommend approval of a recommendation to the council of approval of personnel policy 1.340 as presented.
A motion by Tom, second by Nick. Discussion. Steve.
Yeah, this, when the appeals, the appeals used to go to the finance director, and is this changed to the common council now?
No, the council was always part of this. It's instead of the finance director making that initial decision, it will be the administrative specialist, HR assistant who will, make an initial decision, but it's always appealable to the council. And what the person who would be taking over from the finance director in this role will be doing is basically looking to see if it appears that the terms of the policy have been violated based upon what the provider and his staff are saying. In other words, we've had calls and this person has behaved as follows, and we've tried to deal with it and it's not getting better. That'll be the basis for the decision. But that person, even before now, can appeal to the council, and they will still be able to appeal to the council.
So is that judiciary and licensing type thing, or no? The whole council?
The reference is directly to the council. And I haven't seen one of these in the 8 years I've been here. It could happen if someone feels aggrieved by the decision, but if you think about the types of behaviors involved, it may be a tough sell to suggest that your privileges shouldn't be suspended for some period of time if you've done one or more of these behaviors.
Any further questions? If not, we have a motion and second on the floor. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Suggested items for future agendas. Do we have any? If not, we're adjourned. Thank you.
Yeah, just give me a call.